like, how cool is it that you can make money making things that you love and inspiring people to do the same? I think that's just like the coolest thing on the planet.
What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning into the Why Influence podcast, where we interview influencers about their why and their motivation for influencing. I'm your host, Jeremy Segal, and today we have Audrey from AUDREY EMBERS. She's in the vlog niche. She makes videos similar to Casey Neistat. She's got 15,000 subscribers and over 600,000 views on YouTube, but she has really strong engagement. She gets a lot of views for each of the videos she puts up. She also has a very effective Discord group, and she has a podcast, and she's on most popular social platforms. This interview was done a few weeks ago, so there's a major announcement in this episode. So I apologize to the avid AUDREY EMBERS fans who are listening to this for bringing you some of the old news, but I hope that you get a lot of value out of listening to why Audrey is doing what she's doing. Without giving any more spoilers, let's jump into the interview. Until then, enjoy the beautiful intro music.
Welcome to the Why Influence podcast, where we deep dive into the why behind some of the world's most influential people. Why do you influence? Why are you an influencer? We hope to inspire you to share your voice with the world. And now, your host, Jeremy Segal.
Audrey, thanks so much for coming on the show. Before we jump into your why, I'd like to ask a few questions so our audience can learn a little bit more about you. Can you tell us a little bit about your personal background and what you did before becoming a social media influencer, or what your life looks like outside of social media?
Sure. I grew up watching YouTube. It was always something I was interested in doing. At the end of 10th grade in high school, I actually started my channel. Even though I was sort of nervous about, in high school, you're worried about people watching your stuff. And it wasn't cool back then to start a channel either. I feel like now it's a little bit cooler. It wasn't cool when I started my channel. I've always had this creative drive, but I hadn't found the correct medium yet. When I was little, I liked basically anything that I could make stuff using my hands. I liked painting and drawing, but I wasn't really good at it. But when I started borrowing my mom's camera and got my first computer, that's sort of when something clicked, and I was like, I really like, video as a way to make art. I don't know, cool things, tell stories. So yeah, that's when I got started.
What social platforms are you most actively engaged on at this point?
Definitely YouTube, because I post there once or twice a week. But I'm also active on Twitter and Instagram a lot. Also Discord, which is a chatting platform, basically. That's where my community hub is, so I'm always in there talking to people. Yeah, I think that's where I'm most active.
All right, and it's also my understanding that you have a podcast as well?
Oh yes, I do. I'm actually going through a rebranding process on it right now, because just under a year ago, I decided I want to start a podcast, but I had no experience podcasting. So it's sort of been a trial run almost for this whole year to just get used to talking to myself. And eventually I'm going to have to transition into also doing interviews, which is going to be a learning process for sure. But yeah, I also do have the podcast.
All right. So let's jump into your why. Why did you start posting online? What prompted you to begin this journey of sharing your content and your artwork of video online?
Well, I know the first person who really inspired me to start a channel was ConnorFranta. And he made a video called Life Doesn't Wait, where it was more cinematic, and he was sort of matching the visuals to a poem/story he wrote. And I thought that was really cool. So I recreated it shot by shot. It wasn't perfect, okay. I tried to recreate it shot by shot. And that sort of just sparked I really like cinematography and storytelling through visuals. And since then, it's just sort of continued and grown into wanting to document the creative process. I also like to challenge myself creatively, which is kind of funny how I still do that now. And looking back, one of my first videos was that one where I did exactly that without really realizing, without planning. Now I sort of have this series called I Tried To, blank, where I take a complicated creative process and try and recreate it. So I don't know, it's sort of grown organically through my interest in just sharing stuff. And pushing myself to make as complicated things.
All right. So you loved creating videos, but what was your logic or reasoning for posting those videos online? Was it mostly just a repository for posting your content so then you can just show it to your friends and somehow it just sort of took off on its own? Or, you liked your artwork of creating videos, but you could have created those videos and not shared them online. So I'm just wondering what your logic behind that was.
I don't know. I think it was almost like the logical next step because I'd grown up watching these YouTubers and they were posting on YouTube, and I was like, why? Like, I'm making videos, I'm going to post on YouTube as well. It was also just convenient because I could share it with my friends. I knew that there's a possibility that other people would be able to see it, and I guess it didn't really bother me. It was sort of just like, oh well, we'll see what happens sort of mentality.
All right, that makes sense. So was it a conscious choice to become a social media influencer? Like, was that something that you saw as an end game, or did it just sort of organically happen as you were creating these videos related to your art and expression?
That's an interesting question because I think there are a lot of like big YouTubers now that started like accidentally fell into being a YouTuber. Like it just sort of happened. Well, at the start, I guess it wasn't really a conscious choice. Like I wasn't trying to grow or anything. It was sort of just me making whatever I felt like sharing it with my friends and stuff. And I still do, make whatever I feel like making, but there's definitely more of a plan and strategy behind what I do. And my number one priority is to make sure I'm making things that I really love, obviously. But there is definitely more of a, unless you're like one of the rare occurrences, you sort of need to have more of a strategy and a plan and like how you're curating your content and stuff.
So given that when you started is mostly just to post your stuff and you didn't care that other people were watching and to share it with your friends, to some point that you got to where now other people are watching, and it's my understanding that you're at a crossroads of treating it a little bit differently again. So do you mind talking about how your reasons for influencing has changed? And it can be about the current situation of maybe trying to make a living through social media influence as opposed to doing it solely for the creativity, but just curious how your reasons have changed over time.
I started taking YouTube seriously about a year ago, and the motivation wasn't like, oh, I want to make money off of this. It was, I just want to improve as a filmmaker, storyteller, all that. As I focused on that and the channel started to grow as a consequence, I learned more about the potential in this industry, and real life hits you at some point. And when I was thinking about wanting to do being a creator as potentially a part of my career in the future, that's when I really started thinking about, well, got to make money somehow. So that's definitely been implemented as a part of my content strategy, whether that's, promoting affiliate links or just talking about topics that, like if I'm talking about freelancing or stuff like that, to sort of get the word out there to promote what I'm doing. But I don't think at the core of it, it's really impacted my content. I just think I think it's just given me a new sense of determination to try and make the best stuff that I can and also give value to people through different avenues, not just on YouTube. Did that answer your question? I think I might have veered off topic a little bit.
No, you answered it. And I'm sort of tackling this a little bit ahead of when I normally would during the interview because of just where the conversation went. But we can take a step back a little bit to a more basic question, which is, do you consider yourself an influencer?
Ooh, even earlier when you mentioned it to me, I don't know. I don't think I've been called a social media influencer before. It sounds fancy, and at the same time, there's kind of a weird connotation often associated with that word.
I guess my follow-up question to that is, you have over 600,000 views on YouTube and 15,000 subscribers. I'd say that you have some level of influence.
I guess.
Why do you think that you don't consider yourself an influencer? What threshold do you think that you need to accomplish in order to allow yourself to identify as an influencer?
I guess actually I probably do consider myself an influencer. I guess when you put the numbers like that. And I do know that my audience is very engaged, and I'm super happy and grateful for how much my audience cares about my work and stuff. So I would be naive to be like, oh, I don't have any influence, because I know I do to a certain degree, but there's just always sort of been like, people have talked about what's the best word, like is creator better or is influencer better?
Sure. Yeah.
And I don't really know. I guess influencer to me just has like a strange rhetoric almost. I don't know.
That makes sense. What did you have to overcome to become a social media creator? Like for myself, like I had to give myself permission to do it. Like I was a super introvert and went out of my way to make it so I wouldn't be anywhere online, to now like trying to start this podcast.
Yeah.
So like, for me, it was limited by me not having the permission for myself. So I'm just curious if you had any barriers that you had to overcome to become a social media influencer.
I'm also pretty introverted. I'm definitely an introvert. But for me, like talking on camera and stuff wasn't as like very difficult to, I mean, okay, if you go back and watch some of my old videos, I'm very awkward on camera and my on-camera presence has definitely grown, but it still wasn't like, it didn't feel uncomfortable or unnatural. I think like a lot of creators, influencers, whatever, they sort of elevate their personality like a lot or super animated and stuff. And I've kind of made it a point to not do that as much. Like obviously I have to be more engaging on camera, but I'm not going to start yelling. Or if I'm in like, or if I want to talk a bit quieter, I will. And I think people like that because they see I'm not trying to put on, an act or whatever. But also I think something that still is hard for me to get over is this sort of lingering doubt, because even when I was growing up watching these people make videos and like growing and stuff, I felt like sort of disconnected from that. Like, oh, that couldn't happen. Like, I can't be like that because I don't know. So sort of coming to this realization that like, no, I can do this and like, I want to do this has been like an ongoing debate in my brain for quite some time now. And it's definitely, at times gotten in the way of tackling bigger projects or wanting to make certain videos. But I think that's pretty natural for people to have some like level of doubt or maybe not full 100% confidence in everything they want to do all the time.
So it sounds like you have grown since you've been sharing your content online. You said that you were really awkward in the earliest days and you're getting more comfortable on camera now. So how has being an influencer changed you over time?
It's definitely pushed me out of my comfort zone like a lot, which has been amazing, because especially if you want to succeed, I think in this industry, you need to like take risks and push yourself to do new things. So it's like just by the opportunities I've had or the people I've met, it's definitely like pushed me a lot. And it's been great because I've learned so many new things. And it's definitely helped me evolve as well. I mean, I'm still awkward on camera, but that's just part of my personality. So I don't want to eliminate that completely. But it's definitely like helped me evolve and be more, completely myself on camera and stuff, more than I was when I got started.
All right. So it's my understanding from when I've talked to a lot of people that community is a really important component to an influencer's life. And I'm curious, do you have a memorable story about someone that you've influenced? Maybe someone that's contacted you directly and just told you how you had an impact on them?
Oh, there was this one girl from Australia who contacted me. Maybe this happened a couple of months ago last year. And she said that she was currently in college to be a doctor. And she really wanted to try like a creative path instead. She was interested in being a doctor, but she also had this urge to test out this creative stuff. So she was debating taking like a gap year to just try out some things. And in her message, she told me that I had inspired her to take that leap and like just, test it out for a year. And that really touched me because, and she also mentioned stuff about, how it was different she really liked what I was doing with Create Her and all that stuff as well, which is super important to me. And seeing like another girl doing something like this was one of the big factors that helped, inspire her to do it too. I haven't heard from her since, but I definitely am going to like check up with her in at the end of this year and see how she's doing, because stuff like that just makes me so happy, because my whole channel is about like trying to inspire people to do what they like and make a career out of it if they want. And seeing people actually taking action based on that is really, really surreal and pretty awesome.
Wow, that's huge. So you inspired her to take a year leap to follow her creative passions?
Yep. That sounds pretty crazy, but yeah.
That's amazing. So speaking of the importance of community, I watched one of your recent videos about when you hosted your first meetup event.
Yes.
I believe you mentioned in the video that people traveled from out of state to come to your meetup event.
Yeah.
Do you mind sharing a little bit about this experience?
That meetup was like the best. I'm here in Chicago now for school, and I don't know many people here. So I was like, how can I not only meet other creators, but also, you know, just build more of a community and allow people to meet each other, all that good stuff. So I organized a meetup event mostly through I found people, or people found the event mostly through my YouTube, which is still weird to wrap my brain around. And it was a really successful event. And a lot of people from my Discord server that I've been talking to for like over a year came. One came from Canada and others came from Iowa. Like, it was so cool to finally meet them in person. And it was definitely a pretty surreal time.
That's awesome. It's amazing how people are willing to travel such long distances for the meetup.
Someone came from Texas. I was like, oh my God.
All right. So content creation is a lot of work. Have you ever struggled with motivation? And if so, can you share an example of a time that you struggled and how you pushed through it?
Yeah. So ever since I left college for the first time and then decided to go back for the second time, I guess I've been sort of doubting, this whole process. And it's been taking up a lot of my mind space. I don't know. I've just always been thinking about it, worrying about it, like doubting, am I doing the right thing, blah, blah, blah. And I actually just posted a video today announcing I'm dropping out again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I don't know. And during this time, it's definitely been harder to concentrate on making things, because I think my channel is like maybe not direct representation of me, but it's definitely like a reflection of me. So if I'm, worried about stuff and not focused, then my channel and the content on it will be reflected by that. And I definitely think that's been the case for the past couple months when I've been so preoccupied with like worrying about everything. And I've definitely like lacked the motivation during this time to up my content game. And it's not that I haven't had any ideas. It's just I literally have lacked like the motivation to go out and film, or I have been staying consistent with the content I've been uploading. And I think the biggest thing I've learned like throughout that period of a lot of doubt and lack of motivation was don't get obsessed with like perfection, because I think that's what got in the way of me just uploading more, was like not thinking what I was making was up to the quality standard I had in my brain, or like the image I had in my brain of what I wanted it to be. And now I'm glad that I continued to upload, even if it's not the best stuff, just making sure I'm constantly improving in little baby steps was pretty important.
Well, congrats on your decision to focus on your channel. That's huge.
Thank you.
You didn't know this, but I was actually going to ask you at the end of the episode if I could give a shout out to your parents, and and now I don't need to do that.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I finally convinced them to give me a year to like work as hard as I can at this. And I did tell them, they literally wrote me a contract. Like, I'm not kidding. They're like, if you're basically not on track to be able to make this like a thing, then you're going to go back. And I said, okay. So I'm bound by a literal contract, so I need to make this work. But no, I'm super excited to give this 100% for this next year or so.
That's awesome. Well, good luck with that.
At least. I'm not planning on going back, but we'll see.
Well, let's continue through this then. What do you find most challenging about being a content creator?
I think the biggest thing that's been stopping me now has been perfectionism. I didn't used to be like this as much, but I think the pressure of like wanting to always be improving and stuff has been getting greater recently. And it's definitely stopped me from actually just making more things. But I do think it's necessary at the same time because I do want to up the quality of my content and just my ideas in general. I want to make bigger and better. For me, I guess the biggest challenge is just always rising to the standard that no one set the standard except for me. So constantly just rising to be able to meet my own personal standards of what's good content has probably been the biggest struggle.
Yeah, that's always a struggle. I know I struggled that just with the first couple episodes of the podcast that I had to re-record myself.
Oh my goodness.
So what's inspiring you most about your future as far as goals and dreams go?
I think it's so cool that we even have like the opportunity now to be able to make things that we love and have a platform to share them with literally anyone who's wants to watch. The potential is so big, and like I don't know exactly what I want to do career-wise, but I do know that I have big goals when it comes to filmmaking things, being a creator, also starting a business at some point. The biggest overall goal I have is just to make sure that I can have control of my creative process, and that, like, how cool is it that you can make money making things that you love and inspiring people to do the same? I think that's just like the coolest thing on the planet. And other things like Create Her that I've started recently, and which is, a cause and a purpose that I really care about. It's just, the potential is crazy, and I'm really excited, especially now that I've made the decision to leave school to like really focus on making stuff happen.
Awesome. So if you were to meet someone who's either not an influencer or early stage influencer, what kind of advice would you give this person if they were interested in becoming an influencer?
I get asked this question like a lot. Like, what should I do if I want to get started? And my biggest thing is just start making things and post them online. Because I think it takes a lot of courage, especially at the beginning, to just be like, I'm going to put this thing out there that's not my best, and I know I can improve, but I'm still going to post it out there for anyone to see and judge me on anyway. That's like a pretty big step, especially when you're getting started. A lot of people don't know like what type of content they want to make, or maybe they're not the best at editing or filming or whatever. And it's just going to be a lot of trial and error, and you sort of have to accept that and be ready for whatever happens to happen. Definitely just make as much as you can, especially at first, and just put it out there and see what happens. And you can only grow from it. Like, don't overthink it too much at the start. That's the biggest thing I think that holds people back, is just overthinking things way too early.
Yeah, just posting stuff and accepting whatever happens will happen is great advice.
Yep.
You have really high engagement with 15,000 YouTube subscribers. You're getting a little over 2,000 views per video on average. What's your secret sauce? What are you doing that you believe is a little bit different than what the average YouTuber is doing?
I focus on community so much. It's like my number one priority. I was trying to respond to almost every single comment, or I'll like or heart them. I think that's really important. If you can, engage with as much as you like all of the comments, like do it. It makes me really mad when I see like smaller YouTubers not responding to comments or engaging at all. Even if like in their videos they're like, leave a comment, I'll respond, and then they don't. That makes me so angry. It's just about being like authentic, and I think my audience sees that. And I've been building like this community of creators who are at different stages in the process, but I think all of that, of being highly engaged with people who watch and like actually caring, and sort of making content that's bigger than just me. So opening up the conversation to the people watching, offering value in other places, not just on YouTube, has also been really important. And I've also done things like start a community hub, my Discord server, and actually being like present on there. I don't know, there's like literally just engage as much as you can and actually care. Like, if you don't care about your community, there's something wrong. And it's definitely more like, I just got a comment today, like on this video I posted about leaving school. The support has been insane. I only know, I haven't checked my phone in a while, but there were some people commenting like, we're not just viewers, like we really care about you. And I was like, oh my God, it's so crazy. But I think it's like, it's a reciprocated like relationship. I actually really care about the people watch my video. And so in return, they care more about me. You know, it's natural. You can't expect there to be higher engagement if you don't actually engage with the people watching.
I like that. Yeah. Keeping up with your community and caring about them and engaging with them is huge.
And I mean, it definitely gets harder as you grow, but I know, like, I've heard of from people who have larger audiences that they'll dedicate like an hour to responding to comments and stuff. And I think that's a good strategy because obviously you don't want to be overwhelmed completely. But if you're still at the point where you can respond to everyone and engage with as much as possible, you should be doing it. I don't see any excuses.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing your why with us. I'd like to end the podcast episode with giving you the opportunity to talk a little bit about your brand, your social accounts, your podcast, Create Her, and anything else you'd like to share with our audience.
I mean, Create Her, I don't think I explained what it was. It's a hashtag for women creators who make like filmmaking, tech type content to share their work and be able to go through the hashtag and find others who make similar things as them. Because, I mean, it's no secret that this niche is mostly dominated by guys. So this is just a way for us to kind of like find each other. So I'm like heavily invested in that. I'm actually about to launch it like officially soon. And other than that, I mean, there's my YouTube where I post most of my stuff, and then Twitter and Instagram. And yeah, that's about it. Oh, and my podcast that I'm rebranding. But right now it's called Embers to Flames. I'm not sure if it will stay with that name.
Okay. Well, Audrey, thanks so much for coming on the show and sharing your journey. I hope you have a great remainder of 2019. I wish you the best of luck with keeping up with your contract with your parents and pushing through. And I look forward to seeing your audience keep on growing.
Thank you so much.
Well, that concludes the interview. I appreciate you guys sticking through and listening to the end. Audrey, thanks again for coming on the show. I hope to bring you on again in the future and get some updates after you've been full-time influencing, after you've quit your school endeavors. I know that a lot of people don't like being called influencers just because it has a bad rap to the name for some reason, but I think that the meaning behind influencer still means what it means. And I thought it was interesting how Audrey had a hard time seeing herself as someone who had influence. It really took me to tell her the numbers and the performance that she's had so far to have her really be confident in the fact that she is actually an influencer. So I thought that was an interesting observation. Something I think a lot of people struggle with is confidence and believing that you can actually have something or do something. And I thought it was very wise of Audrey to admit that she has struggled with that. And it's something that I think everybody's going to be having to overcome when they're working towards some kind of influence or whatever they're doing. I thought that is a really powerful story, hearing that Audrey, who lives in Chicago, Illinois, influenced a lady in Australia who's aspiring to be a doctor to take a gap year to pursue creativity. Some people may say that's not a good thing for society or not. I'm not here to argue that. I just think it's amazing how Audrey is able to influence something on the complete other side of the planet to pursue something because of something that Audrey has done here on her YouTube channel. It's clear that Audrey really emphasizes how community is her number one priority. She created that meetup and she had people travel from all over the country, even Canada, to go to that meetup. And it's just amazing to see the kind of community that she has built between her YouTube channel and her Discord group. She gave some valuable advice to people who are in the early stages of things. Just start creating. Just post the things online. Make as much as you can. Don't overthink too much. Don't be too picky. Don't think about things needing to be perfect. Just put it out there, get judged, and get over that hurdle, and then start making tweaks after that. The hardest part is just getting started, and Audrey made a lot of strong points to help push you to get started. Again, Audrey is a very big advocate for community, and she thinks very strongly about replying to all the comments, especially if you're making videos saying that you'll reply to all comments and then people are commenting and you're not replying to them. I think it makes sense that she loses respect for you with that, and your audience probably is too. If you say that you're going to reply to all comments, reply to all comments, but make sure that you're spending time with your community, especially in the early days, to help get people engaged. Now, shifting gears to my journey here doing the podcast, I think I did a pretty good job interviewing Audrey in this episode. I think as far as my end of things, this was the best episode so far as me being an interviewer. I think that I was more engaging. I was asking questions to go deeper in certain avenues. There's some natural dialogue that was happening on top of the standard questions, and I'm looking forward to growing into doing more natural dialogue. But I'm pretty proud of myself for doing an entire interview without having to re-record anything. I mean, whatever I recorded during the interview with Audrey is what came out. Nothing in this interview was re-recorded because, like I said in the earlier episodes, I'm only re-recording myself in the first 3, so that's over. Everything else is raw. I'm going to be making mistakes, and you guys are going to be hearing those mistakes, and I'm just going to be living through it. I mean, that's a lot of the advice that we get from these people, is just put stuff out there and don't worry about the quality. To an extent, you want to care about quality, but don't be perfect, and that's what I'm trying to do. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you're new here, then please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast so you can hear some of the future episodes. We have a lot of exciting influencers who are coming on the show, and we look forward to creating more content for you guys. If you want to learn more about Audrey and her social media, then I suggest you go to our website and go to the show notes for this episode. To do that, you need to go to whyinfluence.com, whyinfluence.com. Go to episode 4, which is an interview with Audrey, and then there's going to be all the show notes in there. There's going to be links to all her social medias. You can see her YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, her Facebook, her Discord group. It's all going to be in there, so just go to our website and check that out. As one last shout out, I would like to say that I hope Audrey is successful in her full-time endeavors into social media influence. And if you guys aren't following Audrey, take a moment, go to the website and follow her on everything, because she makes a really amazing stuff. You're just going to learn a lot by watching her. I think that she could use all the support she can get as she is trying to make a life doing social media influence. Again, I appreciate you guys listening to the podcast, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.